Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery, watching the stars through the large window. The year was 2387, and this was humanity's first real journey into deep space. After 200 years of trying, humans had finally built ships that could travel faster than light. The quantum fold drive hummed quietly below the ship's floor, bending space around them like a bubble. Jake had been chosen to lead this mission because he was calm under pressure and good at making quick decisions. He was 42 years old, with short brown hair and kind blue eyes. His crew trusted him completely. Standing next to him was Dr. Lisa Blake, the ship's science officer. She was 35, with long red hair tied back in a ponytail and bright green eyes that always seemed to be thinking about something important. "Captain, we're approaching the Kepler 442 system," said Commander Ryan Brooks from his security station. Ryan was a big man with strong arms and a serious face. He had been a soldier before joining the space program, and he always watched for danger. "All systems are running perfectly." Jake nodded and looked at Kate Sullivan, the ship's engineer. She was young, only 28, but she knew the Discovery better than anyone. Her blonde hair was always a bit messy because she spent so much time crawling through the ship's tunnels, fixing things and making improvements. "Kate, how's our fold drive doing?" Jake asked. "Running smooth as silk, Captain," Kate replied with a smile. "We could keep going like this for months." The Discovery had been traveling for 3 weeks since leaving Earth. They were exploring new star systems, looking for planets where humans might be able to live someday. So far, they had found several interesting worlds, but no signs of intelligent life. That was about to change. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Dr. Blake said, looking at her instruments with excitement. "There are artificial signals coming from the third planet. They're not natural. Someone made them." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was what they had been hoping for and fearing at the same time. Humanity was finally going to meet aliens. "Can you tell us anything about these signals?" Jake asked. "They're very complex," Lisa said, her fingers dancing over her control panel. "Much more advanced than anything we use on Earth. Whoever is sending them has technology far beyond ours." Before Jake could respond, the ship's alarms began to ring. Ryan jumped up from his chair, his hand moving to his weapon. "Captain, we've got company," Ryan said, his voice tight with worry. "Multiple ships are approaching us. They're big, and they're moving fast." Jake looked at the main screen and saw something that made his mouth fall open. 7 huge ships were coming toward them, but these weren't like any ships he had ever seen. They looked like they were alive. Their surfaces were smooth and curved like the skin of some giant sea creature. They moved through space like fish swimming through water, changing direction without any visible engines or thrusters. "Those ships are beautiful," Kate whispered, "but how do they work? I don't see any engines." The alien ships surrounded the Discovery in seconds. They were at least 10 times bigger than the human ship, and they glowed with a soft purple light. Jake could see patterns moving across their surfaces, like veins carrying blood through a living body. "They're trying to communicate," Lisa said, adjusting her equipment. "I'm getting a signal. It's in multiple languages, but one of them is English." "Put it through," Jake ordered. A voice filled the bridge. It was strange and musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Small craft, you will allow us to board your vessel. Do not resist. We are the Zephyrian Collective." Jake looked at his crew. They were all scared, but they were also excited. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for since they first looked up at the stars. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Discovery," Jake said into his communicator. "We come in peace. We welcome contact with your people." There was a pause, and then a sound that made Jake's blood run cold. It was laughter. Not friendly laughter, but the kind of laughter that meant someone thought you were stupid. "Earthship," the voice said, and now Jake could hear amusement in it. "How entertaining. We will board your primitive vessel now." A bright light filled the Discovery's main cargo bay. When it faded, 3 alien beings stood there. The leader was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through its body like electricity through glass. It had no face as humans understood faces, but Jake could somehow tell it was looking at him with disgust. "I am Ambassador Veltar," the creature said, its voice now coming from speakers that had appeared on the walls. "We represent the collective rulers of this sector of space for over 3,000 of your years." Jake walked forward, trying to look confident. "Welcome aboard, Ambassador. I'm Captain Morrison. We're explorers from Earth seeking to make contact with other intelligent species." Veltar moved closer to Jake, and Jake could see his own reflection in the alien's crystal body. The ambassador seemed to be studying him like a scientist might study a bug. "How curious," Veltar said. "You are even more primitive than our sensors indicated. Look at you, covered in that ridiculous flesh, and you have no fur or scales to protect you. How do you survive on your world?" Jake felt his face turn red. "We use tools and technology. We've built cities and machines. We've learned to travel between the stars." This caused all three aliens to make that terrible laughing sound again. Veltar's body flashed with bright colors, which Jake realized might be how his species showed strong emotions. "Tools," Veltar repeated, like the word tasted bad. "Yes, we can see your crude mechanical devices. Tell me, Hairless Ape, how long did it take your species to develop this laughably simple spacecraft?" 200 years, Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. 200 years, Veltar said to his companions. "They needed 200 years to build this metal box with primitive chemical engines. Our children create better vessels for their amusement." Dr. Blake stepped forward. "Perhaps we could share knowledge with each other. We have many scientific achievements that might interest you." Veltar turned to look at her, and Jake saw the alien's crystal body change to a darker color. "You wish to share knowledge with us? Show me your greatest scientific achievement, female creature." Lisa pulled out a small device that could analyze the composition of any material. It was one of Earth's most advanced pieces of technology. "This scanner can identify any element or compound instantly. It uses quantum resonance to—" "Stop," Veltar said, holding up what might have been a hand. "You bore me. This device is less sophisticated than the toys we give to our youngest offspring." The ambassador moved to the center of the cargo bay and seemed to grow larger. "Listen well, primitive beings. You amuse us. Your species is like a joke that writes itself. We have decided to designate your world as a curiosity preserve. You will be allowed to continue your simple existence for our entertainment." "A preserve?" Jake asked, his anger growing. "We're not animals in a zoo, aren't you?" Veltar asked. "Look at yourselves. You are bipedal creatures who lost their fur through some evolutionary accident. You build crude machines because your bodies are too weak and inefficient to survive without them. You wage wars against your own species because you cannot control your primitive emotions. You are exactly what we would expect from a species that barely climbed down from the trees." Jake felt his crew's anger growing around him. Ryan's hand was back on his weapon, and Kate was clenching her fist. But Jake knew they were completely outmatched. "We are taking detailed scans of your vessel and your biology," Veltar continued. "This information will be shared across our network. Many species will find you highly entertaining. We expect you will become quite popular in our comedy broadcasts." "Comedy broadcasts?" Lisa asked. "Oh yes," Veltar said, his body flashing with amusement. "The Hairless Ape Show will be broadcast to 7 star systems. Billions of intelligent beings will laugh at your primitive antics. You should feel honored. Not many species are amusing enough to warrant such attention." Jake felt something break inside him. Humanity's first contact with aliens, and they were being turned into a joke for the galaxy's entertainment. "We're not going to be your entertainment," Jake said quietly. "Oh, but you are," Veltar replied. "The decision has been made. Your species lacks the intelligence and capability to be anything more than amusing pets. Accept your place in the galaxy, Hairless Apes. It is all you deserve." The 3 aliens vanished in another flash of light, leaving Jake and his crew alone with their humiliation. The human race had just become the laughingstock of the galaxy. The journey back to Earth felt like the longest 3 weeks of Jake Morrison's life. Every day, he watched his crew struggle with what had happened. Dr. Lisa Blake spent hours staring at the alien data they had recorded, her face growing more frustrated each time she studied it. Commander Ryan Brooks cleaned his weapons over and over, even though they were already perfect. Kate Sullivan worked on the ship's engines with angry determination, as if she could somehow make them better. Through pure willpower alone, Jake knew how they felt. The humiliation burned inside him like acid. Every time he closed his eyes, he could hear Ambassador Voltaire's musical laughter and see the flashing lights in the alien's crystal body as it mocked humanity. The words Hairless Apes echoed in his mind constantly when Earth finally appeared. On their screens, Jake felt both relief and dread. He was happy to be home, but he knew that what came next would be even harder than the alien encounter itself. He had to tell his entire species that they were considered a joke by the rest of the galaxy. The Discovery docked at Luna Station, humanity's largest space facility, orbiting the moon. Within hours, Jake found himself sitting in a secure briefing room facing the most powerful people on Earth. President Amanda White sat at the head of the long table, her gray hair pulled back severely and her dark eyes fixed on Jake with intense focus. President White was known for her sharp mind and quick decisions. She had led Earth through several crises, but Jake could see that this news had shaken her deeply. Around the table sat the other members of the Global Defense Council. General Paul Carter, a big man with silver hair and scars on his hands from his younger days as a soldier, leaned forward with his jaw clenched tight. Admiral Susan Hayes, the head of Earth's small space fleet, drummed her fingers nervously on the table. "Show them the recording," President White said quietly. Jake activated the holographic projector, and suddenly Ambassador Voltaire stood in the middle of the room. The alien's crystal body caught the light as it spoke its cruel words. Jake watched. The faces around the table grow darker with each insult. When Voltaire called humans hairless apes and talked about comedy shows, several people started to stand up in anger. "Turn it off," General Carter said, his voice rough with fury. "I've heard enough." President White raised a hand. "No, we need to see all of it. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with." When the recording finished, the room fell silent. Dr. Alex Turner, Earth's top scientist, was the first to speak. He was a thin man with wild gray hair and thick glasses, and his hands shook slightly as he spoke. "The technology gap is enormous," Dr. Turner said. "Their ships are clearly alive somehow. Biotechnology beyond anything we've ever imagined. The way they appeared and disappeared from our cargo bay suggests matter transportation that we can't even begin to understand." "I don't care how advanced they are," General Carter said, slamming his fist on the table. "No one talks to humanity like that. We need to mobilize every military force we have and show them what humans can do when we're angry." Admiral Hayes nodded in agreement. "The general is right. We can't let this stand. If we do nothing, every alien species in the galaxy will think they can push us around." Dr. Maria Santos, another scientist, shook her head. "We need to be smart about this. If we attack them directly, they'll destroy us. We need to advance our technology first, learn from what we've seen, find ways to match their capabilities." President White listened to the arguments flying back and forth across the table. Jake could see her weighing every word, every option. Finally, she held up her hand for silence. "Jake," she said, turning to him, "in your professional opinion, what did you learn about these aliens that might help us?" Jake thought carefully before answering. "They're arrogant, Madam President, incredibly arrogant. They've been the dominant power in their region of space for so long that they can't imagine anyone challenging them. They see us as so far beneath them that we're not even worth worrying about." "That could be useful," President White said thoughtfully. "Anything else?" "Their technology is biological," Jake continued. "Everything they showed us was grown, not built. It's powerful, but it might have weaknesses we don't understand yet." And there was something about the way Voltaire talked about the collective. It sounded like there are multiple species working together, but maybe not all of them are happy with the arrangement. President White nodded slowly. "Thank you, Captain. You and your crew have done well under impossible circumstances." She turned to address the entire room. "Ladies and gentlemen, as of this moment, We are implementing emergency. Protocol 7. All space exploration missions are suspended. All available resources will be redirected to a new project. She stood up, and everyone else in the room followed. Director Robert Kim will oversee Project Prometheus. Our goal is simple: advance human technology and military capability to the point where we can demand respect from these aliens. We will not be anyone's entertainment. Director Kim was a quiet man who usually worked in the background, but everyone knew he was brilliant at organizing large projects. He had helped design Lunar Station and had coordinated the building of humanity's first faster-than-light ships. Thank you, Madam President, Director Kim said. I'll need unlimited access to our best scientists and engineers. And I'll need Dr. Elena Rodriguez to head up our technology development. Dr. Rodriguez was young for such an important position. Only 34, but she was considered the smartest person on Earth when it came to advanced physics. She had been working on nanotechnology and quantum mechanics since she was 20. Her black hair was always messy because she forgot to take care of it when she was thinking about complex problems. I accept the position, Dr. Rodriguez said, but I'll need access to every piece of data we collected from the alien encounter. Every scan, every recording, every measurement, you'll have it, President White promised. Over the following days, the news of humanity's humiliation spread across Earth despite attempts to keep it secret. Someone leaked parts of the alien encounter, and soon every news network was talking about the Hairless Ape incident. People were angry, scared, and embarrassed all at the same time. But the worst was yet to come. 3 days after the Global Defense Council meeting, Lisa Blake burst into Jake's office at the Space Center. Her face was pale, and her hands were shaking. "Jake, you need to see this," she said, activating her portable computer. "I've been monitoring alien communications frequencies. They're broadcasting something." The screen filled with what was clearly an alien entertainment program. The title, translated by Earth's computers, read The Hairless Ape Show. Jake watched in horror as cartoon versions of humans stumbled around, falling down and making stupid mistakes while alien audiences laughed. The humans in the show were drawn to look even more ridiculous than real humans, with exaggerated features and clumsy movements. "It gets worse," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This show is being broadcast to at least 12 different star systems. Conservative estimates suggest that over 50 billion intelligent beings are watching. Humans being mocked for entertainment." Jake felt sick to his stomach. It was one thing to be insulted by one alien ambassador. It was something else entirely to know that humanity had become a galactic laughingstock. "There's more," Lisa continued. "I've detected similar programs starting on at least 6 other networks. They have titles like Stupid Mammals and the Bipedal Comedy Hour. We're not just a joke to the Zephyrians anymore. We're a joke to the entire galaxy." Jake sat down heavily in his chair. The full scope of humanity's humiliation was finally becoming clear. They weren't just dealing with one arrogant alien species. They had been turned into entertainment for an entire galactic civilization that saw them as nothing more than amusing animals. But as Jake sat there, feeling the weight of his species' shame, something else began to grow inside him. It started as a small flame of anger, but it quickly grew into a burning determination. Humanity had been underestimated before. They had been written off as weak and primitive by their own planet's predators for millions of years. But humans had survived, and they had learned to fight back. "Lisa," Jake said, his voice growing stronger, "contact Director Kim. Tell him I want to volunteer for Project Prometheus. Tell him that Captain Jake Morrison is ready to show these aliens what happens when you underestimate a human being." Lisa smiled for the first time in days. "I'll tell him. And Jake, I want to volunteer too. We're going to make them regret laughing at us." Across Earth, similar conversations were happening in laboratories, military bases, and government offices. Humanity had been humiliated, but they were not broken. The laughter from the stars had awakened something dangerous in the human spirit, the determination to prove everyone wrong. 2 years had passed since the humiliating encounter with Ambassador Velta R, and Earth had become a completely different world. Every major city now had laboratories working around the clock. Factories that once made cars and computers now produced weapons and spacecraft. The entire planet had united with a single purpose: to make the aliens regret their laughter. Dr. Alina Rodriguez stood in her laboratory deep beneath Geneva, Switzerland, staring at a small piece of alien technology that had changed everything. The fragment was no bigger than her thumb, but it had taken her team 18 months to understand what it was. During the encounter with the Zephyrians, their scanners had somehow captured a tiny sample of the alien ship's whole material. "Show me the latest test results," Alina said to her assistant, Dr. Ben Parker. Ben was a young man who had given up a promising career in medicine to work on Project Prometheus. Like everyone else involved in the project, he worked 16 hours a day and dreamed about alien technology at night. "The results are incredible," Ben said, pulling up holographic displays that showed the alien material at the molecular level. "This isn't just biological tissue. It's something completely new. The cells can change their structure instantly, becoming harder than steel or softer than rubber, depending on what they need to do." Alina nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling patterns in the hologram. "And our nanotechnology can disrupt this process." "More than disrupt it," Ben replied excitedly. "We can actually reprogram it. Watch this." He activated a small device that sent out invisible waves toward a sample of the alien material. Immediately, the purple living tissue began to change color and shape. Within seconds, it had become a perfect cube of what looked like ordinary metal. Alina felt her heart race with excitement. This was the breakthrough they had been hoping for. "How long before we can scale this up?" "Give me 3 more months," Ben said. "We'll be able to disrupt alien biotechnology across an entire spacecraft." Elsewhere in the facility, Colonel Danny Green was training with his enhanced soldiers. Danny had volunteered for the Human Enhancement Program 6 months earlier, and the results had been beyond anyone's expectations. He was still recognizably human, but he was faster, stronger, and smarter than any normal person. "Move! Move! Move!" Danny shouted as his team of 20 enhanced soldiers ran through a training course designed to simulate alien ship interiors. The soldiers wore new armor that combined human engineering with adapted alien biotechnology. The armor could change its properties instantly, becoming lighter for speed or heavier for protection. Lieutenant Amy Chen finished the course first, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to navigate obstacles that would have been impossible for a normal human. Amy had been an Olympic athlete before joining the program, and the enhancements had made her superhuman. "Excellent work," Lieutenant Danny said as Amy removed her helmet. Her brown eyes were brighter than they had been before the enhancement process, and her movements had a fluid grace that seemed almost alien. "Thank you, sir," Amy replied. "The new armor is incredible. I feel like I could take on one of those crystal aliens hand to hand." Danny smiled grimly. "You might get the chance soon. Intelligence reports suggest the Zephyrians are planning to visit Earth again. They want to make a new comedy show about us." Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Agent Nicole Foster was doing the most dangerous job in the solar system. She was deep in space, alone in a small stealth ship, intercepting alien communications. Nicole had been a spy before first contact, working for various governments around Earth. Now she used those skills to gather intelligence about humanity's enemies. "Computer, decode the latest transmission from the Zephyrian home system," Nicole said, her fingers dancing across her control panel. She was a small woman with short black hair and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. The ship's computer, enhanced with captured alien technology, quickly translated the message. Nicole read it with growing excitement. The message was from a species called the Corvani, and they were complaining to the Zephyrians about trade agreements. "Interesting," Nicole whispered to herself. The Corvani were apparently unhappy with their position in the collective. They felt that the Zephyrians took too much of their resources and gave too little in return. This was exactly the kind of information that could be useful later. Nicole had been gathering intelligence for 2 years now, and she had discovered something important. The Zephyrian collective was not as united as they pretended to be. There were 7 different alien species in the Alliance, and at least 3 of them had serious complaints about Zephyrian leadership. Back on Earth, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of humanity's newest and most advanced spacecraft. The U.S. Retribution was unlike anything humans had ever built before. It was 3 times larger than the Discovery, and it incorporated both human engineering and adapted alien biotechnology. "Status report," Jake said to his new crew. Many of his old friends were here, but they had all changed during the past 2 years. Lisa Blake was now director of xenobiology, and she had spent months studying every piece of alien data they had collected. Kate Sullivan had become the chief engineer for the entire human space fleet, and she had designed systems that even she didn't fully understand. "All systems are green," Admiral reported Commander Tim Walsh, Jake's new second-in-command. Tim was one of the enhanced humans, and his improved brain could process information much faster than a normal person. "The hybrid biomechanical systems are functioning perfectly." Jake looked out at the stars and thought about how much had changed. The Retribution wasn't just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's determination to prove themselves. Every piece of technology on board had been designed specifically to counter alien advantages. "Sir," Lisa called from her science station, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the alien material we've incorporated into our hull. It's like the ship is alive." Jake wasn't surprised. The Retribution was partially alive. In a way, human scientists had learned to grow certain parts of the ship using modified alien biotechnology. The result was a spacecraft that could repair itself, adapt to different situations, and even learn from experience. Dr. Alex Turner, now the head of Earth's weapons development program, contacted Jake from his laboratory on Mars. Alex's wild hair had turned completely white during the past 2 years, but his mind was sharper than ever. "Admiral Morrison," Alex said, his excited voice coming through the ship's communication system, "we've had a major breakthrough with the electromagnetic pulse weapons. The new design can disrupt alien biotechnology from a distance of 50,000 kilometers. "That's excellent news, Doctor," Jake replied. "How many ships can we equip with these weapons?" "Every ship in the fleet," Alex answered proudly. "We've been working with Kate Sullivan's engineering teams to integrate the weapons into all our vessels. The aliens won't know what hit them." Jake smiled for the first time. In months, humanity was finally ready to face their tormentors. The enhanced soldiers were training perfectly. The new technology was working beyond expectations. An intelligence report suggested that the Zephyrian Collective had serious weaknesses that could be exploited. But the most important discovery had come from an unexpected source. Dr. Lisa Blake had been studying Zephyrian biology and psychology, and she had found something crucial about their species. "Jake," Lisa said, walking over to him with a tablet full of data, "I've figured out why the Zephyrians are so arrogant. Their species evolved on a world with no major predators. They never had to fight for survival the way humans did. They don't understand warfare or strategy because they never needed to learn." "What does that mean for us?" Jake asked. "It means they're not prepared for a real fight," Lisa explained. "They've been the dominant species for so long that they've forgotten how to adapt to threats. Humans, on the other hand, evolved by fighting dangerous predators for millions of years. We're natural warriors and strategists. We just never had technology good enough to show it." Jake felt a grin spread across his face. Humanity's greatest strength had always been their ability to adapt and overcome challenges. Now they had the technology to back up their natural abilities. "How long before we're ready for the counterattack?" Jake asked Director Kim, who had just arrived on the bridge. "6 more months," Director Kim replied. "Agent Foster's intelligence network is in place. Our enhanced soldiers are ready, and our new fleet is almost complete. The aliens think they're dealing with primitive hairless apes. They're going to learn that they made a terrible mistake." Jake looked out at the stars again, but this time he wasn't thinking about humanity's humiliation. He was thinking about their revenge. The galaxy had laughed at humans for 2 years, but the laughter was about to stop. It was time to show the universe what happened when you underestimated the human spirit. The day of humanity's revenge began quietly. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching 12 human warships move into attack formation. After 2.5 years of preparation, Earth's fleet was finally ready to show the galaxy what humans could do when they were angry. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Commander Tim Walsh said. his enhanced brain processing data from the entire fleet instantly. The ships around them were beautiful and deadly, their hulls shimmering with the strange purple glow of hybrid bio-technology. Jake took a deep breath. Today would either be humanity's greatest victory or their final defeat. There was no middle ground. Agent Foster, what's the latest intelligence from the target system? Nicole Foster's voice came through the communication system from her spy ship hidden in the asteroid field near Arcturus Station. The Zephyrians have 8 ships defending the station. Admiral, they're conducting what appears to be a comedy broadcast recording. Our timing is perfect. Jake felt a cold smile cross his face. The aliens were making another show about stupid humans while real humans prepared to attack them. The irony was almost too perfect, Dr. Rodriguez. Are our disruption weapons ready? Jake asked. Elena's voice came from the ship's laboratory, where she had been making final adjustments to their new weapons. All systems are green, Admiral. The electromagnetic pulse generators are charged and ready. When we activate them, every piece of alien biotechnology within 50,000 kilometers will stop working. Colonel Danny Green and his enhanced soldiers were already in their assault pods, ready to board enemy ships the moment their defenses failed. Strike Team Alpha is ready for combat. Admiral, Danny reported, my soldiers are eager to show these aliens what enhanced humans can do. Jake nodded and opened a channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Morrison. Today, we end humanity's humiliation. Today, we show the galaxy that humans are not pets or entertainment. We are warriors, and we will not be mocked. All ships engage the enemy. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Arcturus system. Like avenging angels, the Zephyrian ships were caught completely by surprise. For over 3,000 years, no one had dared to attack them in their own territory. Captain Steve Collins commanded the U.S. Vengeance, one of the smaller ships in the human fleet. Steve was an old friend of Jake's, a tough man with gray hair and scars from his days as a fighter pilot. He had volunteered to test the new hybrid technology, and his ship was the fastest in the fleet. Zephyrian ships are moving to intercept, Steve reported as his sensors detected the alien vessels changing course. They look confused. I don't think they understand what's happening. The Zephyrian commander tried to communicate with the human. Fleet Ambassador Veltar's familiar musical voice filled the communication channels. Unknown vessels, you are trespassing in collective space. Identify yourselves immediately. Jake activated his own communicator, making sure his voice was broadcast to every ship in both fleets. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Force. We are the Hairless Apes you found so amusing. We're here to deliver a message. There was a long pause before Veltar responded. When the alien finally spoke, Jake could hear confusion and the first hint of worry in the crystalline voice. Impossible. You primitive creatures do not possess the technology for military action. This must be some kind of mistake. The only mistake was yours, Jake replied coldly. Dr. Rodriguez, activate the pulse weapons across the human fleet. 12 electromagnetic pulse generators fired simultaneously. The invisible waves raced toward the Zephyrian ships at the speed of light. When the pulses hit the alien vessels, the results were immediate and devastating. The beautiful bioships that had seemed so alive and graceful suddenly went dark. Their hulls stopped glowing. Their organic engines ceased functioning, and their weapon systems shut down completely. In less than 10 seconds, the entire Zephyrian force was floating helplessly in space. Direct hits on all targets, Alina reported excitedly from her laboratory. The alien biotechnology is completely disrupted. They're dead in space. But Jake wasn't finished. Colonel Green began boarding operations. Danny Green's assault pods launched from the human ships like bullets. Each pod carried 5 enhanced soldiers equipped with the latest hybrid armor and weapons. The pods moved so fast that the Zephyrians didn't have time to react, even if their ships had been working. Danny's pod was the first to breach the hull of Veltar's command ship. The enhanced human soldiers cut through the alien biometal like it was paper. Their new weapons designed specifically to counter Zephyrian defenses. Inside the alien ship, Danny found himself face to face with creatures he had only seen in recordings. The Zephyrians were even more alien in person than he had expected. Their crystal bodies flashed with patterns of light that Danny's enhanced brain interpreted as extreme panic and confusion. "Ambassador Velta," Danny said through his suit's translator as he approached the alien commander. "Remember me? I'm one of those primitive hairless apes you found so entertaining." Velta's crystal body flickered with what Danny recognized as fear. "This is impossible. Your species lacks the intelligence for military strategy. How did you disrupt our biotechnology?" "We learned," Danny replied simply. "That's what humans do. We adapt. We overcome. We never give up." Lieutenant Amy Chin led her squad through another section of the ship, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to move through the alien corridors like a dancer. The Zephyrians she encountered tried to resist, but their weapons were as dead as their ship's engines. Amy's soldiers captured them easily, their enhanced strength making the crystalline aliens seem fragile and weak. Meanwhile, Captain Steve Collins was having his own adventure aboard another Zephyrian vessel. His smaller assault team had captured the ship's communication center, and Steve was broadcasting a message that would change everything. "Attention, Corvani! Vessels in this system," Steve said, using intelligence that Agent Foster had gathered. "Over the past 2 years, this is Captain Collins of the human fleet. We know you're unhappy with Zephyrian leadership. We're offering you a chance to break free from their control." The response came faster than Steve had expected. "Human vessel, this is Commander Zektar of the Corvani ship Windcutter. We have been monitoring your attack. Your tactics are ... impressive. We wish to discuss terms." Jake smiled when he heard Steve's report. Agent Foster's intelligence about cracks in the collective was proving accurate. The other alien species were tired of Zephyrian arrogance and were ready to abandon their former allies. But the real psychological victory came when the human fleet began broadcasting their own message across the collective's communication network. Dr. Lisa Blake had prepared a special transmission that would be heard by every intelligent species in 7 star systems. "This is humanity," Lisa's voice said in a dozen different alien languages. "For 2 years, you have laughed at us. You have made entertainment from our humiliation. You have called us primitive and weak. Today, we show you the truth. We are not hairless apes. We are humans. We are warriors. And we do not forget." The broadcast included footage of the battle showing Zephyrian ships floating helplessly while human soldiers moved through them like they owned them. The same aliens who had seemed so superior and advanced were now prisoners of the species. They had mocked across the galaxy. The comedy shows about humans stopped broadcasting. The laughter died away as alien civilizations realized they had made a terrible mistake. The primitive creatures they had dismissed as entertaining pets had just defeated the most powerful military force in their region of space. On the captured Zephyrian command ship, Ambassador Veltar found himself in a holding cell designed by human engineers. The crystal being's body flickered with confusion and something that might have been respect. "How?" Veltar asked when Colonel Green came to check on the prisoners. "How did a primitive species develop such advanced technology so quickly?" Danny looked at the alien through the transparent barrier. "You made one mistake, Ambassador. You assumed that because we looked different from you, we were inferior. You never bothered to learn about human history. You never studied our wars, our innovations, our ability to survive against impossible odds. We had superior technology," Veltar protested weakly. "You had advanced biotechnology," Danny corrected, "but you never learned to fight. Your species never faced extinction. You never had to adapt or die. Humans have been fighting for survival for millions of years. We just needed better tools." As news of the human victory spread, more alien species began to contact the Terran fleet. The Corvani had officially withdrawn from the collective. The Nethys were requesting meetings to discuss new alliances. Even some Zephyrian colonies were surrendering without a fight. Jock stood on his bridge, watching the reports flow in from across the galaxy. In less than 6 hours, humanity had gone from being the galaxy's favorite joke to its newest military power. The Hairless Apes had proven that intelligence, determination, and the will to fight were more powerful than any biological advantage. Admiral Tim Walsh reported, "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. President White wants to speak with you personally." Jake activated the long-range communicator. 3 months after the victory at Arcturus Station, Admiral Jake Morrison found himself leading the largest human fleet ever assembled toward Zephyr Prime, the heart of the alien collective. 57 ships followed the UES Retribution through space, each one carrying enhanced soldiers and the latest hybrid technology that had made humanity feared across 7 star systems. The journey to Zephyr Prime had been like a victory parade through space. At every system they passed, alien species that had once mocked humans now requested meetings and offered alliance agreements. The Corvani had officially joined humanity's cause, providing ships and soldiers for the final assault. The Nethi had shared intelligence about Zephyrian defenses. Even former Zephyrian colonies were declaring independence and asking for human protection. Status report from all ships, Jake ordered as the fleet approached the edge of the Zephyr system. Commander, Tim Walsh's enhanced brain processed incoming data from the entire fleet. All ships reporting ready for combat. Admiral, the Corvania squadrons are in perfect formation. Enhanced soldier teams are prepared for planetary assault operations. Jake nodded and turned to Dr. Alina Rodriguez, who had come aboard the Retribution for the final battle. Alina, what can we expect from their planetary defenses? Alina studied her instruments carefully. The biotechnology around Zephyr Prime is more advanced than anything we've encountered before, Admiral, but our disruption weapons should still be effective. The real challenge will be the sheer number of defensive systems they have. Colonel, Danny Green contacted Jake from the assault ship U.S. Warrior, where he was coordinating the enhanced human ground forces. Admiral, my soldiers are ready to take the planet if necessary. But are we sure we want to invade their home world? That seems like something the old Zephyrians would do. Jake understood Danny's concern. Throughout their campaign, humanity had been careful to show mercy to defeated enemies and to protect innocent civilians. They were fighting to gain respect, not to become the new galactic bullies. Let's see what they have to say first, Jake replied. Open a communication channel to Zephyr Prime. The response came immediately. Ambassador Veltar's familiar crystalline voice filled the communication systems of every ship in the human fleet, but the arrogance was gone from his tone, replaced by something that sounded almost like desperation. Admiral Morrison, Veltar said, we request a meeting under terms of honorable combat. The Collective Council wishes to discuss ... terms. Jake felt a moment of satisfaction. The same alien who had called humans hairless apes was now asking for terms. Very well, Ambassador. But this time the meeting will be on my ship, under my rules. An hour later, Ambassador Veltar materialized in the Retribution's main conference room, but he was not alone. With him came representatives from 4 other species that had been part of the collective. Jake could see immediately that the alliance was falling apart. The other aliens kept their distance from Veltar, and several of them looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. Jake entered the room accompanied by Dr. Lisa Blake, Colonel Danny Green, and Agent Nicole Foster. The humans wore their new dress uniforms, which incorporated some alien biotechnology but remained distinctly human in design. They looked professional, confident, and completely in control. Welcome aboard the Retribution, Jake said, taking his seat at the head of the conference table. I believe you wanted to discuss terms. Veltar's crystal body flickered with patterns that Jake's enhanced understanding of alien psychology interpreted as submission and fear. Admiral Morrison, the collective acknowledges that we ... underestimated your species. We are prepared to offer significant concessions in exchange for peace. What kind of concessions? Lisa Blake asked, her scientific mind immediately focusing on the practical details. Another alien stepped forward. This one looked like a tall insect with delicate wings and compound eyes. I am Speaker Kithara of the Nethes Confederation. We wish to withdraw from the collective and establish independent relations with humanity. A third alien, this one resembling a large sea creature with tentacles instead of arms, spoke next. The Aquaridepts also seek to leave the collective. We offer our bioengineering knowledge in exchange for human protection from Zephyrian retaliation. Jake looked around the table and realized that the collective was completely destroyed. The alliance that had dominated this region of space for 3,000 years was breaking apart because its members no longer trusted or respected Zephyrian leadership. Ambassador Veltar, Jake said, turning back to the crystalline alien, it seems your alliance is abandoning you. What exactly can you offer us? Veltar Spotty flashed with what Jake recognized as shame. We offer a complete surrender, Admiral. The Zephyrian government will accept any terms humanity considers reasonable. We ask only that you allow our people to continue existing. The room fell silent. Jake had expected a fight to the death, not complete capitulation. He looked at his team and saw his own surprise reflected in their faces. Colonel Green leaned forward and whispered something that only Jake could hear. They're broken, Admiral. Completely defeated. The question is, what do we do with them? Jake stood up and walked to the large window that showed Zephyr Prime in the distance. The planet was beautiful, covered in cities that looked like they had been grown rather than built. Billions of Zephyrians lived there, most of whom had probably never even seen a human except in those comedy shows. You know, Jake said, turning back to the aliens, 3 years ago, when we first met, you had a choice. You could have treated humanity with respect. You could have welcomed us as equals in the galactic community. Instead, you chose to humiliate us and turn us into entertainment. Veltar's body dimmed. We were wrong, Admiral. Terribly, inexcusably wrong. We allowed our technological superiority to blind us to your true nature. We failed to see that you were a warrior species with vast potential. And now? Jake asked. Now we see the truth, Veltar replied. Humans are not primitive creatures. You are the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever encountered. Your ability to adapt, to learn, to overcome seemingly impossible challenges. It is beyond anything we imagined possible. Agent Nicole Foster spoke for the first time during the meeting. Our intelligence networks have monitored your internal communications, Ambassador. We know that several Zephyrian colonies have already declared independence from your government. Your own people are abandoning you. Yes, Veltar admitted. The humiliation of our defeat has shattered our authority. Zephyrian colonies across the galaxy are either declaring independence or requesting human protection. Our empire is collapsing. Jake returned to his seat and looked carefully at each alien in the room. These beings had once seemed so powerful and advanced. Now they looked like frightened children, hoping that the adults would be merciful. Here are humanity's terms, Jake said finally. First, all comedy shows and entertainment programs that mock any intelligent species will be permanently canceled. Second, the collective will be dissolved, and each member species will be free to govern themselves as they choose. Third, reparations will be paid to humanity for the humiliation and economic damage caused by your entertainment broadcasts. Veltar's body brightened slightly. These terms are acceptable, Admiral, but what of the Zephyrian people? What will become of us? Jake smiled, and for the first time since the meeting began, it was a genuinely warm smile. That depends on you, Ambassador. Humanity has learned something important during this conflict. Conquest and domination don't create lasting peace. Cooperation and mutual respect do. Dr. Lisa Blake leaned forward. We're prepared to offer Zephyr Prime membership in a new organization that we're calling the Galactic Cooperation Council. Every species would have an equal voice, regardless of their technological level or military strength. You would allow us to participate as equals? Veltar asked, his disbelief clear in the patterns flashing across his crystal body. That's what we wanted from you 3 years ago, Jake replied. Respect and equality. If you can learn to treat other species with the dignity they deserve, then yes, you can be part of our new galactic community. Colonel Green stood up. But understand this clearly. Humanity will be watching. If any species tries to recreate the old system of dominance and humiliation, we will stop them. The age of galactic bullying is over. The meeting continued for several more hours as the details of the new galactic order were worked out. When it was finished, Jake found himself standing on the observation deck of the Retribution, watching as alien ships from dozens of different species arrived to sign the cooperation accords. Dr. Alina Rodriguez joined him at the window. It's hard to believe how much has changed, she said. 3 years ago, we were the galaxy's joke. Now we're its leaders. Not leaders, Jake corrected. Partners. That's the difference between us and the old collective. We're not trying to dominate anyone. We're trying to build something better. Agent Nicole Foster approached with a report. Admiral, I've been monitoring communications across the galaxy. The comedy shows about humans have been replaced with educational programs about human history and culture. Several species are requesting permission to establish diplomatic missions on Earth. Jake nodded with satisfaction, and the